Nairobi, her people, her park, and the vibrant spirit of the city, the resilience of our fathers and mothers, and the hopes of our children. A city under the sun, and a people proud to belong. A place that owns a culture so unique its people identify by it. Nairobi, a beauty to behold. Just imagine a Nairobi truly under the sun, and a people truly fulfilled. Imagine a city that responds to the needs of its own. One where every citizen wants a chance at life and to people and the reality of daily life. For this to be addressed, this city needs a leader who understands its dynamics and has over time developed the skills to deliver such solutions. A leader who commits to making Nairobi a city of order, dignity, hope, and opportunity for all.
Growing up in Nairobi from my eyes as a child, it was beautiful. A simple life in Gara. Nairobi was the green city under the sun. My dad said Nairobi was working. It was a place of opportunities. Life here was just beautiful.
One of the most horrific members in the 11th Parliament in the National Assembly.
In my mind, I was thinking, how did a young man get this far?
He is extraordinary when it comes to numbers.
He's able to connect at heart level, which is not what most leaders do.
Whenever I see him even debating over the TV, I write a message. My people, I can see you.
Easygoing, open, honest individual.
The robustness of his ideas.
Grew up from Gara. Nabado Anangara.
Someone we all know very well, someone I admire.
Nairobi is a very special city, and Jay gets it.
Sakaja. This gentleman called Sakaja.
Let us return hope to this country.
Ile Saks amesema, yani Saks amesema sio.
My name is Sakaja Johnson. I'm the current senator of Nairobi. I'm a Kenyan born in this city of Nairobi in the mid-80s in Ngara Ward. Last born, 2 elder sisters, one 2 years older, another one 6 years older. And we had a nice quiet family. My ethnicity is Nairobi. I am Nairobi.
Dad and mom had a very interesting way of bringing up children because they instilled a lot of confidence. You know, you're a great man. Where is the great man? And this is a baby.
1991, he was now admitted and was brought to my class, that is 1 Bros, in Aga Khan Primary School.
I prepared him in leadership qualities as a class teacher by giving him many responsibilities. In Standard 8, he wrote about polythene papers, which have been scrubbed off by Neema today. And it's a very good article. He was talking about the school standing up and shining. That's what he's talking about, Kenya standing up and shining today.
There is enough in this country for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed.
It was during service with my church, AIC, where I met Johnson Sakaja. It was very easy to identify him because of his giftedness and talent and the kind of spirit that he had. We referred to him as a youth principal. And since then, up to date, we have never had that title again repeated.
Therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers.
For my mom, I was a sunny boy because I was the last born and her only boy. She had difficulties because she'd had miscarriages before. And so for her, I was like a special boy. I was born a premature kid. So we had a very special bond. Unfortunately, she passed on when I was young, when I was 9 years old.
She'd been unwell, but of course you don't expect that the person is going to die. So that was difficult for all of us.
She had called us to hospital. Or she asked that we be called. She couldn't talk at that time. My sisters walked in first, and I walked in, she lit up, and she kept doing this. She kept doing this. I don't know what it meant. I'm sure it was not Ford Kenya. but she kept doing peace. And so I had to keep remembering everything. And yeah, a lot of those have held me on through. And because of that, I became very protective of my sisters.
Things became really difficult.
Especially financially.
Yeah.
A lot of the money went into her medical costs, and then she didn't make it. What that then meant was that even the house where we lived in, because that was a government house, we had to move out. We moved to Imara Daima. I mean, life just shifted very drastically. We didn't always have money. There were times we didn't have food to eat because Dad was struggling. He was doing his best, but he finds himself in a very new territory.
Those days there were no mobile phones. So it's not like you can send a text and say, okay, Dad, chakula is over or whatever it is.
Niliporetire kutoka BHA, nimekuja Imara nikaanza biashara. Sakaja wamekuja wakanipata hapa na baba yake na sister yake. I think baba alikuwa anafanya MD Firestone zamani. Walikuwa wanaishi my neighbor. So they are very close to me. Wakuta mtu kikosa kitu hata mimi naenda huko. Watoto wakosa madhe ataka hii kitu hivi tukukua hivyo. Most of the time wajua watoto kama sister yake wako anapenda chips. Babaka tukaenda kwa madhe chukua chips kula. Alikuwa anawacha key hapa kwangu. Basi sister yake anaweza kuja achukue hapo. Ni mtoto mzuri, discipline, ana heshima.
Now we're moving to an apartment. So imagine we're moving on up, and then he brings mkokotenis to hamisha us. Imagine, me and my sister looked at them and were like, okay, there's no way. And he told us, if this is the attitude you have, what future does Kenya have?
No one chooses to be in that station in life that they find themselves in. And just give them a chance, just a chance.
Sakaja, believe it or not, was a driver to the director of Vijana na Kibaki. So he started off as a driver, but by the time we were finishing, he was really at the core of the strategic team of Vijana na Kibaki.
The youth are the trustees of our country's posterity.
2013 elections were coming up. He told me, this is the party that will form government in 2013, and you are the people that will deliver our candidates to State House. I'm looking and I'm like, us.
We are here because we know that together we can. We are here because we know that together we will. Join us in this journey, in the National Alliance, as we march towards the Kenya we believe in and the Kenya we deserve.
Exit the Kenya African National Union. Enter the National Alliance.
In the Constitution of Kenya today, the formula for boundaries delimitation, which is in Article 89, Clause 5, that is Sakaja's idea.
John Kriegler said that one of the things that need to be sorted out is the issue of boundaries.
He is absolutely good on numbers. I mean, you'll stop Sakaja, ask him what are the numbers in these 7 polling stations that you have picked randomly, and he will tell you the possibilities and how they are voted out in the past and how they are likely to vote in the future. That numbers thing was an immediate attraction that stood out immediately.
He is extraordinary when it comes to numbers. He was studying actuarial science at the time. How boundaries are drawn also determine how people live. We brought him because he was capable.
And it was the consensus from everybody, including the people on all the debates, that Sakaja came across as a professional, as a person who knew what he was saying, and his explanation of the issues around the delimitation of boundaries and constituencies was among the best presentation we ever had.
And so Professor Dole presents. I had seen his presentation. He presents the numbers. And then I'm called and I present numbers, but with a political mind and in political language. And he came back and said, you know what, just do what this young man is saying. And it is after that Uhuru said, you know what, this guy must come work with me in Treasury. And I had no interest in going to work in Treasury, but he insisted. And that is what led to formation of TNA. Because that time he was in Kanu and told him, this Kanu won't work in this election. I remember getting people like Dennis Itumbi. I found him on Facebook. I found another guy called James. People who now came and became Team Uhuru, which we started.
Here comes a young man and burst with ideas, and it was there that we were saying, what do we call this party?
And we went to Uhuru and we said, let's call it National Alliance. And he said, no, NA, not applicable. And we thought, what do we call this? Because the abbreviation would have been NAP, which is like, oh, you guys want to go and take a nap. And then I said, no, let's add the article V, the National Alliance.
TNA. It was very clear. We needed this young man to lead, to be the chair of this party.
He's our peer, but he's the chair. And actually, for some people in the team, they are much older than him. But the way Sakaja would command that boardroom, not with a fist, he would inspire the team so strongly that we never once were paid a shilling of an allowance for anything.
We were at that time supporting the then Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, who was Uhuru Kenyatta. Sakaja was very good with numbers, so he was the one who would do all the national numbers and do different permutations of how maybe he would choose a running mate and things like that.
One thing that I really credit Sakaja with is that he is the one who came up with the idea to have a national body responsible for employment affairs. National Employment Authority, NEA.
It will not matter where you're from, who you know, what is your tribe, but there'll be a fair opportunity for all the young people.
We can help our young people get jobs locally, internationally, streamline courses people are being taught at university, put together skills matching with the private sector and employers. Because for many young people, we're actually just postponing their unemployment by teaching courses that the market doesn't need.
I brought legislation about the National Employment Authority, where we can actually make sure that these young people in Kenya and in Nairobi get a fair shot at life.
One of the most prolific members in the 11th Parliament in the National Assembly.
Others, like the 30% procurement opportunities for young people, women, and persons with disability. I remember meeting some young people who came. I was at a restaurant, and the guy said, look, your bill is on me, and here is 100,000. I'm like, oh, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to bribe me? And said, no. Because of the law you passed, I've been able to do business, and I supply certain things to the military as a young person. And I've been able to take my siblings through school. I've been able to buy a car. I've been able to run a business. So I was just thanking you. For me, I felt proud that I've changed someone's life. And I think there are many lives that have been changed. That was a high. One of my lowest moments was, I think, December 18th, 2014, where there was a security laws amendment being discussed. Very senior members turned into animals. People were fighting, throwing bottles at the speaker, throwing books at each other. And I stood up, despite being one of the youngest members, and I told them,
we must respect the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, we must respect this House. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge you, and honestly, members, I'm urging you, with all humility, let us offer leadership at this point. We can decide to fight here until midnight, until morning, but the people of Kenya's hopes will be dashed. You are the hopes of these people. If we cannot sit down and agree, then there is no need why we're here.
And we were able to calm down the temperatures. For me, that was a low, because Parliament should never degenerate into violence. And I always believe politics is not enmity. Parliament is a place to discuss different ideas and to see which one is the best for the people. And I said, politics is not enmity.
Whether he is NASA or Jubilee, everybody deserves justice. You know, and we will work all together. If it's a Labrador today, if that happens to you, the same thing will happen. Because today we might laugh and say it's Babu Owino in NASA. Tomorrow it will be me. Or tomorrow it will be your sister or your father. So what we're saying is that we will not allow misuse of the criminal justice system.
You cannot fight somebody just because of a different political persuasion. I would not want a country where there are limits as to where you can go, as to who you can interact with because of just politics. In the run-up to 2017 election, we collapsed parties. TNA had been the biggest party, and that time there were 12 other parties that we brought together in Jubilee. I was the leader of strategy and the communication and branding. Of course, I left party politics because now I had to vie. People said, hiyo kiti imepata mwenyewe. It was a direct fit. The Senate is more deliberative. You get more time to discuss an issue because we are fewer. So you can get more time for debate, you really can get deeper understanding of issues. So in our oversight role and even in legislating, again, I've also brought the highest number of bills in the Senate: prompt payment bill, national disaster management bill, startup bill.
Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja has defended the Startup Bill 2020, saying
many people have great innovations, but they're not patented or they don't have a trademark and they're not protected. That's why you're seeing Kyondo in Japan, you're seeing Kikoi being done elsewhere, yet it is a Kenyan innovation. We have brought a bill that will provide the legislative framework to deal with issues of disaster so that it is not business as usual, especially in our urban areas and in our arid areas in this country.
Being senator, you're the front seat and you get to understand the intricacies and the challenges and the opportunities that the county government is facing while still interacting with the people. Of course, sometimes there are many expectations that are unrealistic because many people do not yet understand the difference between the role of the senator and that of the governor.
He's very good in relationships. His mind is clear. He's a hard worker. He's young. He's focused. I know he will do a great job.
There are situations that have brought tears. Earlier on last year, when I went to a primary school in Dagoretti, and I was donating desks to this school because there had been vandalism after COVID, after schools were called back. And I give these kids desks and we were chatting and laughing around and they're like, "Oh, Super Senator." And I said, "What do you guys want me to do for you?" Normally the kids would say, "We want balls for sports," or "We want a school bus." When they're very ambitious, of course, I don't have money for a school bus. But the kids said, "We want lunch. We are hungry." And it had happened before at Kinyanjui Road Primary School. That brought tears to my eyes because these kids are like my kids. And by the time a child is telling you they want food, they're actually very hungry.
Sasa mimi nimesema nikiwa governor na Ruto akiwa president, watoto wetu wote lazima wapate chakula kama nyinyi.
And so that inspired me to seek out solutions. Because many kids, when they go to school, they have nothing back at home. The parents are struggling. But if you give them a meal, attendance goes up to 100%. Many children, when they don't have food, they leave school at 12:30 and they don't come back in the afternoon. And they're losing a third of their education. And even when they come tomorrow, they can't catch up with what was taught in the afternoon. Well, that's one of the things we've said we must do in Nairobi. We will feed our children. I used to play musical instruments. I used to play the bass guitar. I've been in a few bands actually. I loved music and I picked it up in school. I'd always wanted instruments, but I didn't have access.
He owned a guitar. I don't know the make because I don't know about musical instruments, but he owned a guitar. Every time the campaign was going on a dive and everyone was stressed, he just held the guitar, put us on a round and stringed the instrument like good poetry on a prose. And that guitar was the music of that campaign.
We were both too tired, so we took turns staring at the window at the dark. You're kidding me? When the dealing's done. Oh my goodness!
He loves his children.
Yo, my name is Tangai Sakaja. And my name is JB Sakaja.
Hey, and I'm Super Senator Sakaja.
And we are the Sakajas.
Seeks to be intentional, drops them. He loves them. That's one thing he says to us. We know that he loves his family.
Hey, so we've got some ideas.
For instance,
try and keep
some social distance.
Wash your hands with soap
and water.
Check your temperature if it's
getting hotter.
I make effort to drop my kids to school every morning. I've made that a tradition because that is the guaranteed time I have. We have a tradition. We get to one of the petrol stations and the newspaper guy throws in the newspapers. And sometimes you find you're actually on the headline. And they ask you, what was this, Dad? And I like being the one to explain to them and them not hearing it from their teachers or banter with other kids. But they hear it from me. Whether it is a tough discussion, they'll always hear it from me first. It helps them with their schoolwork and their grammar, and they've been performing very well. My boys were #1 in a math contest globally just last year, and I was very proud. I tell them language is the mother of everything. Once you can express yourself well, it's easier for you to pass other exams, and it's what my dad taught me.
Mr. Speaker, a country that is at war with its young people is a country that has no future. My people, homeless, thousands of them in Mukuru Kwanjenga. Yes, there were feeder roads being done, but they went on and demolished beyond the feeder roads. And you wonder, how do you help? How much mambati do you send? How much food do you send? We don't have oil and gold under our soil. Our greatest resource is above the ground. It's our people.
Nobody can argue about him being competent. He's a capable and very competent, still young man, and he has a great future ahead of him.
Leadership at the level of governor of a city like Nairobi requires a person with that level of sophistication of mind, but at the same time able to go down to whatever level. And that's the way he is.
Sometimes I tend to focus on what has not worked as opposed to what has worked. Honorable Sakaja is a very positive optimist. He looks always at the positive side of things and pushes through to ensure that things work and things go right. And that way I think it's an attitude that I think everybody should try and borrow, because it helps you keep positive, it helps you keep energized, it helps you feel that this is the person to be with.
Nobody else can say that they understand devolution like Jay does. He wrote it.
Decent person with good education, good grounding, and understanding of the issues in Nairobi.
I remember Sakaja distinctly because of one always reminding me and us that the mission we are on is not about me. It's not about us.
The joy of a mother is when you see your child progressing, moving from one transition to another. So he's giving a lot of joy to us as parents.
Whenever I see him even debating over the TV, I write a message. My people, I can see you. I can see you. Keep it up.
I always watch TV. I don't hear him being mentioned in corrupt places.
I have a lot of hope for my children. A lot of hope because he's there. He's become a source of hope and inspiration for young people, even my boys at home. He's still focused because he knows at the end of the day, all will not be lost.
Don't underestimate him, is what I would say, in terms of what Nairobi can become. Give him time.
There are those who are skeptical and saying, oh, but there's cartels, oh, there were the councillors those days, oh, there's MCAs. And I tell them, you have a choice. I choose not to look at Nairobi in terms of what it has always been, but in terms of what it must be. I believe that we can have a city of order. I believe that we can have a city of dignity and a city that gives hope for all because of the opportunities that we create.
We are looking to drive the city of Nairobi into an international financial and commerce center. And I know it has been said in the past that Nairobi should be and will be that center, but really there has not been very proactive actions taken to drive this.
We've put together a manifesto that is primarily focused on the people of Nairobi, the citizens. What we have done over a series of months is listen to the people, so that our manifesto is primarily informed by the people from where they are, across the city, across all our 17 constituencies, across all the 85 wards, listening to them.
County government yenye tutapigia kula, Mungu amsaidie, ashikilie wanabiashara wa mama sana, kwa sababu tuko na jukumu kubwa sana kwa hii biashara. Hizi mtuba zimetutoa mbali, tumesomesha watoto na bado tunajua Mungu ataendelea kutusaidia.
Kwa ukweli hapa Nyamakema tumekumbwa na shida mingi sana. Ya kwanza ni mambo ya license. License tunalipa license 4. Kuongea ukweli tuko na license ile ya kajo ya kawaida ya 5,000, tuko na ingine ya fire ya 4,500 na tuko na ingine tunaambiwa ya advertisement. Na tena nikiweka any other advertisement pale nje bado tunalipa license.
We summarize or sum up the aspirations of the people of Nairobi in the planks of order, dignity, hope, and opportunity. As it is, there is a complete lack of order in Nairobi. There's disarray.
Ebu angalia kama hizi ni ma licenses. Kama ine inspection unalipa, this is 10,000. Unalipa tu inaenda hivyo. Business legislation hiyo bado unalipa. Unaweka hiyo ni liquor license application lazima ulipe. Thou sita zinaenda tu hivyo na bado hujapata hiyo liquor license.
you have multiple licenses. We have business people where you walk into someone's shop downtown and there's a frame with 10 certificates, a fire license, health and sanitation license. And today one person comes to check this one out. Tomorrow they come and ask you, where's your fire one?
When you look at service delivery that is provided by the county government, we expect that we will radically change the licensing regime to be able to have a friendly environment where it's easy to get licensed to do business. It is easy to actually acquire the relevant approvals to do business in Nairobi County. And when we do that, investors will find it easy to place their capital here. People, owners of capital, will find it easy to come into Nairobi and that be the base of their capital. And in so doing, we'll also create employment. And with employment, we'll be able to create sufficient revenue to create further improvements in the performance of the city.
This city requires order, but everybody knows these are the rules and this is what we abide by. Whether they're popular or not, but these are the rules of our city. And everybody plays by those games. There is lack of order when officers from the county government arrest people at will and come without identification to harass our people. We must look at our people with dignified lenses, that these are our customers. These are citizens of Nairobi. They must be respected. There is no dignity when our traders have to look behind their shoulders every day to see whether there's a kanjo officer who intends to arrest them and bundle them up in tetanus-filled contraptions.
Niko na jamaa hapa rafiki yangu anaitwa Njoroge Muchiri. Munamuona? Munamuona vizuri? Huyu amekuwa CEO wa Absa Bank, Barclays Bank, NIC, miaka 20 amefanya kazi sijui dunia mzima. Anajua mambo ya pesa na mambo ya biashara. Huyu atakuwa deputy governor wa Nairobi mkinichagua.
What we'd like to do is when you take over leadership in the city this August, we will be looking at supporting all levels of business across the city. The first and foremost from our manifesto is the bottom-up approach we are doing to business, and we are saying we shall avail capital to the lowest level of investors and business person in the city.
Nafanya kazi huku jua kali. Mimi ni kama fundi. Huku shida tuko nayo sana huku, malipo iko chini. Material unapata na bei ya juu sana, sijui serikali watatusaidia aje.
We believe that Nairobi must work and Nairobi can work. Our greatest resource is above the ground. Our greatest resource is not below the ground. We don't have minerals, we don't have oil, we don't have gold, but we have people who are resilient. We have a huge workforce. We have young people with the energy, innovation, and ideas. And so we want to make this a business-focused or enterprise-focused city, where if you have an idea, if you have a business idea, if you have a thought, if you have an enterprise, that this is the place to be and you can thrive, so that Nairobi can truly become Africa's economic and financial hub.
Mimi naomba sana hii county government yenye inakuja iangalie vitu kama hizi, kwa sababu sasa hii hapa hii kofia moja watu 4 wamekula kwa hii kofia moja, na hii county government inakuja ikiweza kuangalia vitu kama hizo, inaangalia tu hiyo chain, yani nani hao wanasaidika, itakuwa poa sana kwa sima youth na mampango zote zetu tuko nazo. Jua hakuna kitu yenye hatuwezi kufanya.
For mid-level businesses, they have different kind of needs, and we should be able to address those based on what they're looking at. We know a lot of them suffer from lack of adequate capital, lack of adequate support financially to be able to grow their stocks, to be able to intermediate and drive their businesses forward. So we are setting up a fund that will be available to all the business people under the right conditions, of course, to help them grow their businesses. This is something that we are committing to an extent of about 4.5 billion shillings per year that will be given or will be disbursed to various entities to be able to do their businesses, to be able to grow their businesses, to be able to improve on the running of their businesses.
There is a lady somewhere in Kangemi who just needs her first bunch of bananas. There is a gentleman somewhere who just needs an extra store. There's a young man somewhere along Landis Road who needs one machine to be able to make his production easy. And so do the young people on Ngong Road. So do the young people in Huruma who are carpenters. God has given us the gift of geography, that we are a central hub. You can get to any part of this continent within 5-6 hours at most. You can be able to shuttle between here and any part of the world. And so even many multinationals, many international organizations would want to set up shop here.
Nairobi, with excellent weather and excellent location around in Africa, we can actually have a 24-hour economy thriving. We can get people to work at night, we can get people to work during the day, and we can get people to work around the clock.
But as it is, Nairobi is not conducive or convenient for those Nairobians who want to engage in business properly, and those from outside who are looking at Nairobi with the potential it has. And they're saying, look, the infrastructure is not there, the convenience is not there, you're stuck in traffic for hours, you don't know the rules, it is not clear. And so the ease of doing business is quite low. It cannot.
Recently, I was in Imperial College in London, and I met a man, a nice gentleman, who sorted out transit in London. He sorted out transit in Beijing, mobility. What's his name? Professor Washington King.
This includes providing standards for all of those involved in the digital hailing taxi system. Our young people are exploited every day, driving Ubers, Bolts, Taxify, and all of this, hailing, riding companies. It cannot be that in the last 1 or 2 years, more than 6,000 of these vehicles have been auctioned because of lack of payment, and that those who are buying these vehicles are putting them back into the same vicious cycle and same system. We must get dignity for our brothers and sisters who are drivers in the digital space. We must make sure that we have a metro system and a loop line, and a design had been done. 400 million shillings was spent on this, a bit of it from our development partners, and 100 million shillings from the city council then of Nairobi City County. Why is it not being implemented? We must implement this, and my administration commits that this is going to be one of our priorities so that we can have mobility.
Year in, year out, the headlines read the same. Fire raises part of Gikomba, or millions of shillings worth of wares lost in Gikomba fire.
The inferno was said to have broken out at 2:30 a.m. Poor access roads made it difficult for emergency vehicles to reach the scene and respond in good time.
I'm a Gikomba vendor, and I was pledging with the county government to check on our sides concerning the fires and the billings that we have for the Gikomba market people. Especially when it's burnt, we get a lot of loss. And most of us work with loans, so the banks harass us because they don't allow us to give that expansion of payment. So we're asking for the county government whichever county government will come in, watuangalie tu watu wa Gikomba.
Mimi nimechomekewa mara karibu 5 tukijenga. Hata hizi mabati ni mpya, ile moto ya juzi nilichomeka.
Nafanyia kazi hapa Mudhurwa Market, nafanya hii kazi ya mboga, nauza nyanya, na hii soko yetu ya Mudhurwa tuko na masinda mingi sana, tunapitia, unaona kama juu ni makaratasi iko huku juu, hatuna shedi mzuri, tunanyesewa saa yote, na biashara tena iko chini sana.
So it's a medley of things that we will want to do, a medley of actions and intermediations that we want to take to help the business person, the investor, to grow. And like I said, we're looking at the whole spectrum of business people, like right from the top end down to the bottom, Mama Mboga, who's selling his wares or her wares by the roadside, and who wants support in that endeavor.
We want to give services. We want to deliver services to our people. And for us to deliver services to our people, we must step down devolution a level lower from what we have. Now, our laws allow for us to, introduce urban areas within our city, within our county. And so, pursuant to the County Government Act, as well as the Urban Areas and Cities Act, we're going to introduce 5 boroughs in the county of Nairobi.
We're going to have north, south, east, west, and central boroughs, each of them under an assistant or a city manager, and who all report to myself as the chief city manager, in addition to being the deputy governor. And that will help bring services closer to the people. It will help provide accountability at very specific areas within the capital, which is what we need to have to be able to serve people effectively. So we will create those centers, those barrows, which will then amalgamate the overall efficiency and operation of the city. I think with that setup, first of all, we're able to create additional roles and jobs because a lot of our residents also don't have form work. So it's also a process of creating employment, but it's employment that is targeted to improving the services that we have not been providing or have not been provided in the city previously, just because the structures weren't set up that way.
Nairobi is fast becoming filthy, with heaps of garbage and raw sewer dotting the capital, with wafting stench oozing from many corners.
We'll be able now to sort out our garbage menace, for instance, when we know that all the garbage collected within one barrow is aggregated in a certain place, is sorted out, whether it is the plastics, the organic waste, and other kinds of waste, and sent to our landfills in Dandora or the next one that we're going to develop. And then from there, we can be able to have recycling. We're going to have waste to energy. The amount of organic waste we have in Dandora dam site is able or is enough for us to actually light up our city. And so that is one of the first things we're going to get into in terms of making sure that we are using that garbage to produce energy. But once we reorient how we collect garbage, because today, many of the suppliers are paid to deliver garbage to the dump site. So where they get it from, despite being allocated lots, doesn't count. And so you find people with their trucks getting in, being weighed at the weighbridge and driving out and collecting garbage from the nearest place. We're going to make sure that you have, first of all, cleared it from where it's supposed to be. So I will be able to have a system, and we will have a system where you are actually paid for collecting the garbage from the area you are located, from the sub-county you are located, or from the barrow you are located, and then delivering it to the dump site. Not just for delivering it to the dump site. We must rearrange that.
Naitwa Jembe, hapa ni mtaani Sauti Lang'ata Mgumoini, na hapa ni shughuli ya Southlands kijiji, sio ni maboy wa mtaani. Tunataka kusafisha home huku na ndio kulika yetu. Tunataka kushirikiana na gava inakaa mtusaidie. Kwa hii gabo hapa, hii gabo imekuwa challenge kwetu upande sana upande wa transport. Sakaja siku zote.
We're going to incorporate and include our young people. Our young people are going to be part of the process because there's huge unemployment, and they can form companies that do the aggregation, that do the sorting. So our garbage menace becomes an opportunity, not just an eyesore. It becomes an opportunity, an economic opportunity for our young people to engage, to aggregate it, and then you can have other players in the sector getting it from those areas. And of course, the county must develop its capacity to do this within Nairobi.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa George Njoroge. Mimi ni mkaaji wa hii mtaa ya Gando. Na Gando tuko na shida ya maji. Shida ambayo tumekuwa nayo kwa miaka 30. Tunategemea maji ya kuchotewa kwa mitungi, na tunaomba serikali ijayo watusaidie kwa kutuletea maji hapa. Tumekuwa tukijaribu kwa previous governments, wale wamekuwa na hatujafanikiwa. So tunaomba sana, sababu already kuna structures infrastructure iko laid, pipes zimewekwa, lakini maji hatupati. So wale wanakuja watuangalie sana, sababu maji hapa vile nimesema ni ya mitungi, na in this day and age hapa Nairobi imefika wakati ya kupoteza mitungi. Sasa tupate maji manyumbani.
Water is a huge problem in our city. Our people lack dignity because of the lack of water. The lack of adequate and safe water is a problem that has spanned very many years in our city. Now, it is hard to say and hard to believe that since 1997, there's been no successful exploration of a new water source for Nairobi.
A lot of industries require water. Even the residents themselves require water. And we know we don't have sufficient supplies. We need to be able to move that to ensure that our industries and our factories work well to deliver on their mandate.
Our first source of water was Kikuyu Springs, just after Kikuyu campus, that provides 1% of our water. It's a natural source. 1936, we developed Tuiru Dam that provides 4% of our water. After that, the bigger dams were developed, starting with the Sasumwa Dam in Jabini that provides 11% of our water requirement in Nairobi and comes all the way to the reservoirs and the treatment plants and onto our houses. And finally, Dakaine Dam, which had 3 stages, culminating in 1997, it produces 84% of our water. Now, all of that combined, because for us to sort out the water problem, we must first address the quantity. The second thing we must address is the distribution. And the third thing we must address is the governance. Now, on the quantity of water, all of these water sources collectively provide 525 million liters of water a day to the people of Nairobi. As we speak, the current demand for water is 850 million liters of water a day. Fortunately, there is a development of the Northern Collector Tunnel from Maragua and such rivers in Murang'a County that of course will serve Nairobi as well as other towns outside Nairobi, both in Kiambu and Murang'a, that then will be able to provide another 140 million liters of water to plug the deficit. This will be completed by the end of 2023, where we'll have at least sorted out 85% of our water shortage in the city. It cannot be that those in the lowest income areas of our county are paying more than 50 times more for water than those who receive piped water from the county government. That is not dignity. We must restore that dignity.
So it's really a health crisis at public health facilities right here in Nairobi, as hundreds of patients remain stranded with no services rendered in the 19 county hospitals.
A great area of interest for us is healthcare. We need a healthy city. We need a city where our populace can focus on the productivity and not on ailments. We need a city where we do not lose children to preventable diseases. We need a city where our old people do not suffer and lose their hard-earned investments over the years because of one medical bill. Many of our families, from whatever classes, are just one sickness away from impoverishment. Now, out of the 681 facilities in Nairobi, only 115 are public facilities. We have a shortage of doctors and nurses and critical care specialists in many of our hospitals. We'll make sure that we have the appropriate staffing that is required. We shall implement the collective bargaining agreements that have been entered into between our health workers, who strive day in and day out, day and night, to serve the people of our city. The third thing that we must address is the supply of pharma and non-pharma inputs in our hospitals. We'll make sure that, number one, we can access affordable drugs. And I'm grateful that the monopoly that has been existing with KEMSA has been lifted and is going to be lifted within the national manifesto that we have, that counties can access drugs at a cheaper rate. Studies have been done to show that if counties went directly to many of these suppliers, we can get these drugs at a cheaper rate. Sports and the creative economy is indeed a new frontier for economic growth. Globally, the sports industry is estimated to be worth $700 billion.
Mimi coach wa Kayole United na pia niko na organization yangu inaitwa Reformers Sports and Community Services. Basically, Reformers inatumia sports to change, to transform my lives of my youth, both on and off the pitch. Because kai mtaa yetu ya Kayole, crime ilikuanga juu, tunajua mageng kama Gaza, tunajua mtaa kama Mungiki. So basically sisi touch baada ya mimi personally kulose mabeste wangu wengi wale nilisoma nao na pia wale watu nilikuwa na coach, nikaona wana grow up age ya 15, wanaacha ball, wanaingilia crime.
A sad story is that when the Dandora Stadium project stalled, I know of around 5 young people who fell by the wayside because they were failed by police because they went back to crime.
Na pia crime kakuja kwa career. So nikaanza kujiuliza nini naweza do. Nika register organization yangu, tukaanza kusupport ama youth. Kwa support na nini? Na food stuff. Sometimes tunawaambia wale wasee zile manguo watumii, watupatie tunawapatia. Youth basically anaibanga ndio apate angare ama akonja.
Dandora Stadium was going to provide business opportunities and stalls for more than the 12 teams that play there. Fortunately, as senator, I revived this project and I am hoping that sooner rather than later, I'm going to launch it as a completed stadium as governor of Nairobi. Other areas that we're going to develop include the city stadium. It is in a derelict situation as we speak. We'll revive it and rename it the Joe Kadenge Stadium. We're also going to improve on Kimbwini grounds. We're going to develop Woodley grounds, Umeme grounds, where Kothbiro, a cultural activity and a sporting festival that Nairobians love since the late 70s, is played in Ziwani. We're going to make sure that our fields in all our sub-counties are improved. We've seen the value of many of these, for instance, Kamtoyoyo in Makadara constituency, where even the local teams are able to earn some money from teams that come and pay for use of that ground. And the creative economy is estimated to be around $989 billion US dollars by 2023, and projected to actually be 10% of GDP by 2030. Nairobi is going to be a thriving arts and entertainment city, a cultural capital. And every year, from the 12th of December, we're going to have the Nairobi Arts Festival. This Nairobi Arts Festival will bring together film producers, artists, our matatus through the Nganya Awards. It's going to bring together people with culinary skills to come and cook, and we'll close off streets in town for us to have a week-long carnival to celebrate the beauty and diversity of our city. This is a sector that has the capacity of employing very many of our young people. In Nigeria, for instance, the creative sector through Nollywood and through the music industry is the second highest employer after agriculture. Yet this is an oil-producing country. So imagine the potential. In addition, in Nairobi City County, we will push the national government by showing them the economic indicators to have a 60% quota for local content on TV and on radio. We can't have our young people waking up and thinking that all the talent comes from Mexico when they watch Alejandro and Nigerian movies. We want our young people to produce. We want to work with the private sector. We want to work with all the CBOs and NGOs, because Nairobi does not belong to one person. Nairobi does not belong to a few leaders. Nairobi belongs to all of us. This inclusivity for me is key, and is a commitment that we together can make Nairobi work. And we together shall make Nairobi work. Not just Sakaja, not just Muchiri, not just the MCAs, not just the MPs, but the 5 million residents of Nairobi taking ownership of this city. It is up to us. Many may be skeptical that all these commitments sound good and cannot be done. But we choose to remain unapologetically optimistic without being recklessly naive. Over the years, we've been able to build resilience and the skills in different sectors to understand what can work and what cannot work. And together with you, we can make it happen. We have no choice. I've been able to learn at the feet of greats. I've been able to hone political skills to understand that the first work of a leader is to define reality, and the last is to say thank you. In between, the leader is a servant. And because of those skills, I believe we have what it takes to make Nairobi work. Because this city needs a visionary leader at the top who can say and cast a vision of the people, a shared vision of where the city needs to be, who can consistently motivate his people towards that vision. And that leader needs someone working hand in hand with him with proper, solid experience of handling systems, with experience in the corporate sector, or experience that is different from that of political leadership, who is resilient, who will stick to his job, and who will partner with me and with you to make Nairobi work. On a deputy with a long experience in the corporate sector, who has established systems in difficult markets around the world and is ready to take upon this challenge of setting up systems and working with me and with you in making Nairobi work. We really must look at Nairobi with fresh eyes. We must look at Nairobi with hope, and we must not falter in our hope of, granting to our children a better legacy than what we have received, a better city than what we have found. And it's going to be work. It's going to be hard work. But together with the people of Nairobi, this is something that we can be able to achieve. Until no father has to give up his son to a life of crime or his daughter to a life of prostitution. Until no doctor is unable to access the equipment they require to treat our citizens or to give life-saving interventions. Until no young person, no child has to drop out of school because of a lack of food or a lack of school fees. Until no one is unable to pursue their dream in the city, I think we must keep yearning for it. We must keep gunning towards that Nairobi that we all believe that we deserve. The people of Nairobi have excelled in various fields. The people of Nairobi have made us proud across the world. I see a better tomorrow. I see a future of a thriving capital, the economic and financial hub of our continent, a city of order, a city of dignity, a city of hope and opportunities. Take a moment and imagine. Imagine a city of order. Imagine a city where all the rules are clear and everybody abides by them. Imagine a city of dignity, that every citizen feels like they own part of the city, that there is no second-class citizen. Imagine a city where any idea or any opportunity has a chance to thrive. Imagine a city where no doctor has to lose the life of a patient because of the lack of equipment. Imagine a working Nairobi. How does it look like to you? Imagine a capital where you can walk at night, where there's a 24-hour economy, a capital that is clean, that is bright, with lights. Imagine a city that should be proud to invite anyone from anywhere in the world. Imagine a capital and a county where every child born has an equal shot at life, an opportunity for a better tomorrow. Now, stop imagining. Join us on the 9th of August to cast your vote for this state that will surely make Nairobi work. Thank you.
Johnson Sakaja, siasa safi na maendeleo. Tumchague Johnson Sakaja Nairobi. Tumchague Johnson Sakaja Nairobi. Kawangware wewe, gavana Nairobi. Sakaja Nairobi. Kabere Sakaja Nairobi. Tumchague Johnson Sakaja Nairobi. Tumchague Johnson Sakaja Nairobi. Gavana Nairobi. Sakaja Nairobi. Gavana Nairobi.
Baraka.
Tuko ndani, sisi tuko ndani. Sakaja. Gavana mimi nataka. Sakaje kula. Gavana wetu ndio.
Sakaja siku zote. Sakaja siku zote. Sakaja wetu baba. Maro yote. Gavana wetu.
Very hard to serve gavana.
Sakaja siku zote.
Johnson Sakaja ana gavana ni mmoja.
Sakaja ndio tunataka.
Kura kwa Sakaja. Tia Sakaja.
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 Sakaja
siku zote.
Gavana Nairobi. Oh, Mkuru kwa Jenga. Sakaja Nairobi. Mkuru kwa Ruben. Gavana Nairobi. Kenya yote. Sakaja Nairobi.